All right. Okay, so happy Wednesday, March 25th. I can't believe it's the end of the month. It's been kind of a blur with all the crazy. But I did want to share a couple announcements and resources with you guys. So as far as April challenge groups go, I know for the last few weeks I've been talking to you guys about thinking about maybe running your own challenge group in April as we start to transition towards bod groups, or partnering up with another coach and running one. If you're not brand new, if you didn't just sign up, maybe partnering up with another coach. There we go. More people are jumping on. Partnering up with another coach and running one together. Excuse me. I will today so first of all, my apologies. I know most of you have saw my updates, but I've been like in complete survival mode over here. Having nothing to do with the coronavirus, with Logan, and not sleeping, and being almost 23 weeks pregnant and not sleeping for nights and nights and nights has been really rough. And the mental component of a doctor telling me, like, I'm sorry that your son can't breathe, there's nothing I can do, was super, like, the hopelessness, and I don't struggle with that very often. And so in the middle of the energy of the world being extremely anxious, I was really processing through how to navigate that myself. And I'm so thankful we got a surgery date. So Wednesday next week, he will have his tonsils removed and probably his adenoids as well, which was my last option. But I'm so thankful for it because it's been so brutal. So that's kind of an update on me and why I've been more quiet than usual, especially in the midst of the chaos. Has anyone else listened or seen John C. Maxwell's Leadership Through Crisis? Oh my God. I know, I saw that you posted it too. It is phenomenal. Like, I was listening to just the first one. I think is he done with the summit, or is today the last day, Dana? Do you remember? Right there. I can hear you. I don't know. I can't hear you. Anyways, if you on Facebook look for John C. Maxwell Leadership, it'll say there's a course that he's, like, a free summit he's doing called Leadership Through Crisis. And it is, like, honestly, I'm going to share it in my free group. I'm going to share it in our team page because it's so good, not just for people who are coaches or, like, in the leadership role. It's good for everyone. And there's so many good perspective shifts there that I'm seeing a lot of people get trapped in and get weighed down with, as far as feeling like it's never been this bad before. Feeling like getting lost in the anxiety of uncertainty. Sorry, I don't know what's happening in my ear. And he really comes back to, it is so true that with every tragedy, with every hardship, it's an opportunity. It is the biggest opportunity for people to step up and help more people. I was talking to my husband yesterday that so many people are being forced to break bad habits of busyness that they never would have ever broken before. We tell ourselves so many times, like, there's no way out of this rat race. There's no way out of the grind. Like, I have to do all these things, or I have to do all these things for my kids, or I have to do all these things. And all of a sudden the world stops and you're forced to stay at home. Oh, all of a sudden it's like survival, like, go outside and you could get infected or infect other people. You have to stay at home. And all of a sudden our perspective shifts to more of a survival mode. Like, what do I actually need to survive? What's the most important? And we are able to, it's almost like we're given permission to release all the excess that's been bogging us down and keeping us so anxious. And I know there's a complete different side of anxiety right now, which I completely understand, but it's just so good. So I highly, highly, highly recommend turning off the news, whose agenda is not necessarily to encourage you. It's not necessarily to keep you informed on the truth of what's happening. It's to get a reaction out of you. And boy, do they do that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be informed at all. But if you're constantly watching the media, like watching the news, if you're constantly looking at different people's stories of them dying, like if you're constantly surrounding yourself with that negativity and the fear, you will get stuck in it, and it will not serve you or your family or anyone around you, and especially in your business. So I'm really excited that Dana's here today because her story is so inspiring. She's my sister from another mister. Most of you guys know that. We met through Beachbody. We actually the first time that I feel like we actually talked in person was at Leadership in Vegas, right? I'm pretty sure. And that was when you were going through like the beginning, like hard stuff with your health stuff that you've been going through. And I remember though learning about her story and recognizing like, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. So Dana and I have a lot of twisted jokes, like our trauma brain and the things we forget, or like the twisted stuff that that I brought through from. She was gutted by a boat and I was hit by a truck, so we have that in common. Like, it's just very strange, our relationship, but it's fantastic. So I'm really excited, along talking about how to rise above in the middle of hardship. How to look at this challenge as something that's actually going to make you a better human being, rather than being a victim of all the stuff that's happening to you, because we all have stuff happening to us right now. And I will tell you, I have done so many different polls and asked so many different groups of people. Everyone, a high percentage of people have so much crap going on in their life and hard stuff going on in their life that has nothing to do with the virus. I swear to you guys, it's like we're being bombarded right now with all of these trials and tribulations, and we have to decide. And if you're not, we have to decide how we're going to respond to that. If we're going to let it crush us, if we're going to fall victim to all the things, or if we want to, ask God, how do you want me to respond to this? Like, you got to give me the strength and teach me, give me some wisdom through this, because I need some help to get above it. And then I want to help more people, because so many people are struggling right now. And that's where you, as a coach, are in the perfect opportunity to help and serve more people. This comes down to people. So we have a ton of resources coming at you today in our leadership page. I told you after our team call, Melissa Galmay at 11 is going to go live. She's been phenomenal at stepping up and being a light and growing her business in huge ways in the middle of all this. And I know it's something that all of you are struggling with, or people who I've talked to are struggling with. And then I was going to keep this a surprise, but I'll announce it to you guys in our page. Kim Carver is actually going to go live in our team page today. And if you don't know who Kim is, he's amazing. I forget his title now because he keeps like promoting, but he's like the president or vice president of something within our company. And he just has the best heart. And he had 2 hours open today. And he was like, hey, can I help any of you in your teams or talk to any of your coaches? So he's going to go live for probably 15 minutes in our team page, and he's going to tell us his best tips of how to invite to coaching in the middle of a crisis, and then how to get those coaches started right. He is the king of onboarding. Like, he literally does so much research and studies so many different statistics of people who are successful in the beginning as coaches and what they do and how they get started right. And so I'm really thankful that he's taking the time to do that. We have 3 incredible things happening today. And so I'm going to kind of leave you with that. And encourage you, like, focus on that. Focus on how you can rise up, it's like when we work out at the gym, right? We have to break muscle fibers in order to get stronger. Consider this your breaking period. Consider this breaking bad habits and setting new ones that are going to help you reach a level of life that you never thought possible. that is the power and the opportunity through hardship. Dana wouldn't be as strong as she is today if she didn't go through all of the SHIT that she's been through in her life. And the same with me. If I never went through my divorce, I would never have my incredible husband and my incredible family now. If I never lost my dad when I was young, not that I would ever choose that, I would never have the perspective and the strength of character that I have right now. So look at this as a blessing, as weird and twisted as that can seem. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dana. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. I'm sorry. In the middle of my inspirational TED Talk. I am buying the April Challenge Group Guide from Pixel and Hue. And if you are wanting to share that with me, we can split the cost of it. And if you want to use it for your own challenge group, just let me know. I'm gonna open up another challenge group in April. And if you missed this in the very beginning, I've been encouraging you guys for weeks to, Liam, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, my child. Partner up with another coach, or if you're brand new, you can absolutely run one with me. But I want everyone to use this time to kind of step up and either run your own challenge group or partner up with 2 or 3 other coaches in our team and run one. You guys figure it out. There's so much growth that happens there, and I don't want to keep robbing you guys from that. So, okay, that's all I got. And Dana disappeared. While we're waiting, does anyone have any questions about anything?
No questions, but since we're waiting, I just wanted to share with anybody who didn't already know that I'm doing a 3-day free group. I'm starting Sunday, but I'm starting inviting to it today, and you guys are welcome to add your people to that. If you'd like, I'd like there to be a lot of engagement, and I just thought it would be a fun way to share free workouts without making it like a week-long commitment for everybody, for people who just want to kind of dip their toes in right now. So you guys are welcome to invite to that.
Love it. Love it. Okay, Dana, turning it over to you, sister.
Well, I must say that I have never done a call via my phone before, so we'll see how this goes because I'm looking at a teeny little screen. But hey, this is good. We're embracing adversity, right? Okay, so my story, some of you guys might know a little bit of my story and some of you might not. So I'm going to give you kind of like a quick rundown of my backstory and how I got into Beachbody. And just some of the things that I've gone through while on my coaching journey, because I feel like that's really important, is like when you go through tough things in your life, or like we've never been through something like this before, but I feel like the skills that you learn are kind of adaptable to things like this. So I'm going to share some of those, and then I'm going to give you guys some tips of what I'm personally working on, what's helping me, and kind of what I'm encouraging my team to do through this, because like Jess said, I feel like right now this is an opportunity for us to stand out from the herd, because there has never been something where we are collectively going through hard things at the same time. I feel like, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but if you've been through something challenging in your life, you may have felt that like, oh my gosh, I'm so alone. No one's struggling like I am. Nobody gets this. Nobody understands me. Like, this is really hard. And it's kind of a weirdly beautiful thing right now that we are all collectively going through something extremely hard, extremely challenging together, which I think gives us an amazing opportunity to connect with more people that we potentially never would have connected with without something like this to connect us all. So that's how I'm really trying to look at this. But so a little of my backstory. I lost my dad to heart disease, very tragically, very suddenly, when I was 13. And after that happened, within the next couple years, I started to have horrible anxiety, like panic attacks where I'd have to go to the hospital for it. I got put on depression medication, anxiety medication at the age of 13. And at that point in my life, I was a very avid athlete. I was a synchronized swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer. And I started to develop disordered eating. And that was not something that I was like even aware was happening until it became a problem. my heart rate was so low and like my body was so unhealthy that I had to get pulled off all of my sports teams and put into day therapy in Boston, like a literal, like a therapy place where they monitored what we ate, going on bathroom trips, like all that kind of stuff to try and learn how to deal with processing emotions and learning how to navigate having a healthy relationship with food again. And now that I'm 33 and that is, you know, a decade plus behind me, I can look back at that point in time. And why I'm sharing this is because it's relevant to right now, is acknowledging how you handle your emotions. Because when we feel out of control in life, a lot of times we have these weird, quirky things like people are drinking a lot right now. People are eating a lot of junk food right now. Like there are a lot of very easy to do unhealthy coping skills that we develop in times of stress where we feel so out of control in our lives that is the one thing we can control, right? And so I want to share that because I think it's so important to be aware of like what you are feeling right now and how can I handle this in a way that serves me rather than hurts me more. And that was something that I learned going through that process. So when I kind of started to get a handle of that, I was 16. I was in a severe boating accident. I was out one night with a friend on a boat. It was late at night and just complete freak accident. I was thrown out of the boat, hit by the boat propeller, which removed the top third of my pelvis. I'm lucky to be alive, like by the grace of God, because literally like I was 4 hours from a hospital. I had to be air flighted to a trauma center. I've had 12 surgeries. I've had 9 blood transfusions. Like I was told by doctors when I was 16, I'd probably never walk again. I would never be athletic again. And if I did, that I would have a severe limp. And it's tough because I look back at that point in time and I think that so many limitations were placed on me that were not fair. Like they didn't know that I could never be athletic again, right? They didn't have any idea that like I could overcome and learn how to do things in a different way if I was given the opportunity to. So because of what was told to me at that point in time, I did learn how to walk again. But over that next period of about 10 years, I had surgeries on and off for all different things. I was in and out of the hospital. I lived on, literally by the age 22, I took about 22 pills a day for anxiety, for depression, for muscle relaxers, pain medication every 6 hours. Like, and I'm talking hardcore medication. Like, that's not a long-term solution, right? And I can tell you today that I'm medication free with except for natural thyroid medication and supplements. But that was just what I thought my life was going to be forever. That's what doctors told me. Like, you're going to have to take these things for the rest of your life because we've never seen something like this before. And that's just, it kind of is what it is, right? So because of all this, by the time I was in my early 20s, I had really lost the ability to dream. I was very depressed. I was very anxiety ridden. I was drinking. I was smoking. I was hanging out with bad people. Like, I was hanging out in crowds that did not encourage me to do anything better in my life because I was lost and I was broken. And I had just, my life had been altered so greatly that the path I had thought I was going to go on had been completely swiped to nothing. And I had no direction. Like, I had no one guiding me or leading me. I had no habits that were like, we can turn this around and make something good out of this, right? And that's a big part of why Beachbody was so powerful for me when I stepped into this. So in that time in my life, like I said, I was making a lot of bad choices. I was lost. I was broken. I, had stopped dreaming. I was going to college at the time to be an art therapist because art had been super helpful for me in my own healing journey. And long story short, I went on a spring break. I met a guy. 3 months later, I found out that I was pregnant with my son. After being told that I would probably never be able to get pregnant and or carry a child because of what had happened to my body. So it was like a shock and it was a wake-up call for me. I picked up, I moved across the country to try and make it work, only to realize that I was in a very toxic, abusive relationship with an alcoholic. And when my son was 5 months old, I decided to pick up and start our life over again. So I called my mom at 4 a.m. after calling cops and I said, hey, I need help. I got to leave. I got to start over. I had no job. I had no plan. I had nowhere to live except above her garage. And that was where I started. And 6 months later was when my coach, who I knew from playing field hockey in high school, reached out to me, and she kept talking to me about Shakeology, and like I didn't know what it was, and like I wasn't necessarily skeptical, but I was also like, why is she so pumped up about a shake? Like, what's so special about this? And I ignored her. I would say, yeah, I'm curious. And then I would ghost her for a while. And she finally invited me to a T25 challenge group. And that was what I started with. And I had just moved into our first apartment. And my son he was turning 1 that week, that same week that I signed up. And it was like this point in time where I was like, enough is enough. And if I don't change, like our life is not going to change. Like I am now a single parent responsible for a baby 100% on my own, financially struggling, mentally struggling. And it was like, after all I had been through in that past like 15-year span, I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. That was literally it. It was like a mindset of like, I don't want to be a victim in my life anymore. And I think that is a very important choice that we all have to make right now in this moment. This is hard. This is scary. It's terrifying. Like I'm terrified to even go to the grocery store right now, right? Like a lot of us are very terrified by what is going on right now. And we have to make the choice, not just once, but we have to make it every single day. Because if you even get on Facebook and you read an article about something that's going on, it can spiral us back down into that fear and that anxiety, right? So this is a choice that we have to choose to make every single day to decide, are we gonna follow the crowd and we're just gonna go down with the fear and the anxiety, or are we gonna rise up through this and choose how to navigate it? And it's not gonna be easy. It's not. Like it's a moment to moment, minute to minute, day by day thing to like take this as we can and keep stepping through it. So for me personally, when I stepped into Beachbody, it was like it gave me all of the tools, all of the support, everything that I needed so desperately to be able to start having better self-awareness, to have healthier habits, to see how I really could like turn my health around despite what had physically happened to me. And the same emotionally, like when I stepped into the world of personal development, I was like, holy shit, like at our fingertips at any given time. Like I'm a podcast and a book junkie now because I still battle anxiety every single day. And this is something that we have to consciously choose what we're putting into ourselves every day to show up, like to how do we want to show up and what is helping us do that, right? So first and foremost, I want to encourage you guys because this has been super helpful for me, because I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but at this point in time, it's felt very like weird of like, what do I share? Do I still keep inviting people? Like, do I still make posts about coaching? Like, do people want to hear that right now? Is that so, like, are people going to judge me? Like, I've had this thought of like, if I put something positive and uplifting and inspiring or invite somebody to join me right now, does it look like I'm unaware of what's happening, or I'm insensitive to what other people are going through? Like people are losing jobs right now. People are sick. Like, does it make me look bad? Right. So what I've had to do is really get reconnected to why I started this and why this changed my life. And more so kind of connect the dots, because I would guess that pretty much all of you can find one or two commonalities of pain points and struggles that you had when you decided to start compared to what's happening in the world right now, right? Like when I started my journey, I was a newly single mom. I felt extremely isolated. Hello, social distancing sucks, right? It's so hard. I had no routine at all whatsoever. Like my life and my days were just a big free for all of like, get up, we'll see what happens, react to whatever's happening, like, and just like stress and anxiety all day long. A lot of people are working from home right now. Kids are off school. Like it's just chaos. Like everybody like is struggling to find a new normal and a routine. So I had to go back and think about like, what are things that I was struggling with when I started that are relevant to what people are struggling with right now, and how can I begin to share more about those things? I think that too, like you have to think about strengths that you've had, because we in the coaching world have a lot of skills and a lot of strengths that the general population does not have. Like we get on Zoom calls, we do video conferences, like we create community here, we do personal development, we have daily routines for fitness and nutrition. Like 90% of people don't do any of those things, right? So don't think that the things that you're going to share are small, because they're what people need right now. They're what people need more than ever right now. People need something they can control in a positive way when everything else going on around us is completely out of our control, right? So, Jess, what you were mentioning about the John C. Maxwell, I popped on that too, and I wanted to share a couple of the notes with you before I get into some like tips. These are a couple of things that he said that really, really stuck out to me. He said, crisis causes change, and we get to choose what that change is, right? So when my life was in a crisis as a brand new single parent with all this stuff that had happened to me 10 years prior, that was a crisis in my life. It was a rock bottom in my life. And it was at that point in time that I finally like was able to see I get to choose what happens now. Like I get to choose. Just because hard things are happening to us does not give us permission to just like be like, I'm just going to lay down and whatever, like whatever happens, right? Because that's a choice too. So we have to choose what we want to do with this change, because this crisis is causing change, and how we choose to change with it is on us, right? He said, crisis bumps us out of our comfort zone and into a creative zone. And I love that, because I feel like a lot of what we're seeing right now is like crisis has bumped everybody out of comfort zones, out of normalcy, out of routines. Like everything's crazy right now. And a lot of it, we're looking at it like, my kid had a 45-minute meltdown this morning. And I was like, gosh, like I can't deal with this right now, right? We have to think about, like, instead of looking at this being bumped out of our comfort zone as a bad thing, like think about it. This is what we work on as coaches all the time, to bump ourselves out of our comfort zone. Like this is not happening by choice, right? Like that part of it's kind of out of our control, but we get to choose, like, are we going to be creative in this time out of our comfort zone and do something with it and grow from it and strengthen with it and like get innovative and creative? Or are we just going to complain about how hard it is to be out of our new normals and out of our comfort zone right now? He was saying that only some people choose to make bad experiences good ones. And I think, you can look at Jess, like you can look at Jessica's story and think about how many good things she's created out of bad scenarios in her life. And you're very blessed to have a leader that talks about that all the time, because it's so relevant, not just in life, but in our business, right? Is that we have to choose to flip the perspective and flip the script of like, this is bad, this is hard. Am I going to focus on what I cannot control, or am I going to focus on what I can? And how can I learn from this? Like, what is this teaching me? And how can I become better through this, right? And then he said, you can't manage your way out of a crisis. You have to lead. And I love that, because I think that one of the most important things we have to do right now is we have to lead ourselves through this. Like, this has been something I'm working on every single day, because I have a big team. Like I have a big team that I lead, right? But the problem is we can't lead anyone else if we're not leading ourselves. So if we are caving and we're just feeling anxious and fearful and scared, and we're like, screw the routines, drink all the wine, I'm not going to do my workouts, whatever, we're not leading ourselves, and therefore we're not able to lead other people through it, right? Like we can't clock things in and like manage and control what's happening right now. So we have to be able to control our daily behaviors and lead ourselves first, so that we can lead other people out of this too. And the perspective I want you to think about this, Jessica and I talk about this a lot, is like beginning with the end in mind, is that we don't know how long this is going to last. It could be 3 weeks. It could be 3 months. It could be 6 months, right? Like we don't know how long this is going to happen for. So thinking about at the end of this period of time, let's say it's 3 months from now, right? 3 months from now, we can either come out of this like a hot, frazzled, stressed out mess, beating ourselves up that we didn't lean into our business, that we didn't work on our habits, that we didn't take care of ourselves, that we screamed at our kids all day long, that we felt stressed out, that we pumped negative energy into the world. Or we can think 3 months from now, if I listen to some podcasts every day and I hop on these team calls and I do my workouts and I try to eat nutritiously and I spend quality time with my family and I pour into the people I'm serving, right? Like we can come out in two very different scenarios. And that's the basics of what we talk about all the time, is the consistency and the compound effect, right? How do we want our choices, our actions, and our attitudes to compound by the end of this however long span? Like, really sit down and think about, like, ideally, if I could come out of this being a better version of myself, what would that look like? And what do I have to do every day to do it? And like, know that you're not going to be perfect about it. I'm surely not. Like the other night, I put a post up about this because a couple nights ago, I was getting ready to go to bed. And like, when you're busy with kids all day long, it's freaking stressful, right? And by the time you get them to bed, you're just like, and I made the mistake of getting on my phone and scrolling through Facebook and reading a couple articles and seeing people's negative, fearful, stressful stuff, right? And I went to close my phone to go to bed and I couldn't fall asleep. I laid in bed feeling anxious until 1 o'clock in the morning that night, which if you don't get sleep, we all know as moms, you feel more stressed out the next day. You have less patience, you're tired, you're more anxious, right? And it was like, I'm glad that happened, because what it reminded me is like how important the small choices we are making every day, like more so than ever right now. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm turning the lights out, like after my son goes to bed, and I'm making sure that I read a book for 30 minutes before I go to bed, and lights out by the time that I want to be falling asleep, because how I spend the rest of my night in my decompression time is how I start my day the next day. And if you're ending your day with anxiety and chaos and fear and worry, that's how you're going to start the day the next day. And we don't want to do that to ourselves, right? So, all right, this is an opportunity to develop character, is what is, I think, really important to know right now. Like, I look at this, and I'm sure Jess can agree with me, that I look at all the hardships that I've been through in my life, and like, I would not be the same person. I would not have the perspective I have. I would not have the compassion I have. I would not have the heart I have, the grit, the resiliency, the determination. Like, none of that would be innate characteristics in me if I had not gone through what I went through, but then also chose to change how I was going through it and what my experience was. So know that, like, character building, it sounds bizarre, but like, that's such a huge opportunity for us right now. Like, if you're wanting to become a more patient person or a more compassionate person or a more determined person, this is the time to do it, right? Because if we can do that through this part of business where things are crazy right now, imagine what it's going to be like 6 months or a year from now, when life kind of settles back into normal. But now you have this whole new level of grit and ambition and resiliency, which that's going to carry you through not just your business, but different aspects of your life, because this isn't the only hard or the only like crazy thing that's going to happen in life, right? Like, it's very crazy and it never happened before, but there are hardships in our lives always, right? And learning these characteristics and leaning into these can serve us and the greater good in the long run. So embrace those. I love that John C. Maxwell prompted us with these 3 questions, and I wanted to prompt you guys with these 2. He said, how can a crisis make me better? 2, how will I use this crisis to help other people, which is so relevant to what we do? And what action will I take to improve the situation? And I keep talking about like leading ourselves, what we're doing, because that's the biggest part of this for me personally, is like, what action can I take every single day to improve my scenario? So therefore I have the energy to go out and help other people. Cause like, if we're crumbling, we're not able to serve, right? So here are my couple tips for you. And then I think I'm going to be done. I can't tell what time it is. 12:41. I'm doing all right then. Okay. Be aware of what you're consuming. This is something relevant to what we do always. I am not a news watcher. I don't have cable. I don't read the newspaper. Like, I personally feel like if something's important enough to know about, I'm probably going to seeing on Facebook, right? Be aware of what you're consuming right now, because more so than ever, social media can tend to be kind of a negative place, right? Unless you have a bajillion coach friends on your feed, like then life is better, right? But it's typically a little bit negative or stressful or complaining or whatever. And right now, if you guys have scrolled, which I'm sure you have, it's probably like for every 15 negative, stressful posts you see, you might see one good one, right? Like the odds are right now that when you're scrolling, it's not going to make you feel good. Think about how it impacts your energy, because that to me is like, it's like my accountability right now to be like, do I want to stay in a good mood, or do I want to end up feeling stressed and anxious in 10 minutes, right? And then I'm like, okay, don't scroll. Like, protect your energy and protect your peace, because I'm an empath. I feel everything and I feel deeply. I hurt when the world is collectively hurting. I feel stressed and anxious when everybody around me is stressed and anxious. I had to really work through that last week to ground myself because it was not good, right? If we can protect our energy and protect our peace, so becoming more aware of what's making you feel a certain way, like what makes you feel good and what makes you feel not so good, and learn to do more of the things that make you feel good and stay away from the things that make you don't feel good. Like, it sounds like kindergarten stuff, but like, this is really important right now, right? We cannot serve if we are burnt out, if we're anxious, if we're fearful, if we're stressed. I don't know about you, but when I feel like that, it's like my brain goes a million miles an hour. I'm like, I can't help anybody right now because I can't even help myself, right? And like, sometimes you just have to let yourself feel that stuff. Like, I'm a big proponent to the more that you allow yourself to feel the emotions, the quicker you're going to get out of them. Because when you don't want to feel them, and when you run from them, and you drink wine instead, or you eat Cheetos instead, or you whatever, you're not really dealing with your feelings, right? You're numbing them. I am a recovering professional number my entire life, whether it be food or drinking or drama in relationships. Like, I am so hyper aware of how I choose to numb things that I personally, at this time in my life, would rather feel the anxiety, feel the fear, feel the whatever, so that I can shift out of it and let it go, like release it and let it go and no longer carry that with me, right? This is also an opportunity for us to set an example to others of how to get through this, right? Because look at the collective world right now. Like, just, I'm sure you guys, like, you see everybody is handling it a lot in the same way. Like, this is an opportunity for us as coaches and us as people who we are to shine right now, to rise above the collective chaos and stand out from the crowd of how we're choosing to perceive this and how we're choosing to handle it. And I personally think, like, that's a massive opportunity for us right now for people to look at us like a light that typically scroll right by our motivation and our fitness and our whatever, because they're like, wait, she's actually sharing something positive and helpful right now. Like, maybe I should look at what she's doing, right? Like, how is she doing that for herself right now? So we have an opportunity to stand out above the noise right now. Okay, so that was a long first point, but the second point I was going to say was consume with intention. So on the flip side of protect your energy and be aware of what you're consuming is consume with intention. Like Jessica and I were talking about watching the John C. Maxwell Leading Through a Crisis. I have listened to a number of podcasts this past week on how to lead through a crisis, how to handle a crisis, how to emotionally move through a crisis. Like, I'm choosing to listen to things to say, like, how do I deal with my feelings right now? How do I move through this? How do I lead through this? How do I show up through this? How do I parent through this? Like, how do I do this, right? Because we don't have a handbook of how to deal with life when we're in a crisis. There are always solutions. There are always answers. There might be one line you listen to in a podcast where it like is a game changer for you, right? So a couple podcasts I just want to mention is the Life Coach School podcast by Brooke Castillo. She's fantastic. She's one of my favorites always, but she has a couple segments on there about how to emotionally handle crisis, which I think is so important, right? Legacy Leadership is also fantastic. He has a podcast on how to lead through crisis as well. That's amazing. And then check out the John C. Maxwell Legacy Leadership. And there are a couple others. I could probably write up a list if people want them. But all I'm saying is like consume intentionally. Like choose to hop on these calls, choose to get on FaceTimes with your team, choose to get in like working power hours with your team and connect with people. Like this, for me personally, having no other adult and being a single parent, like that's one of the hardest parts of me right now is I have no adult to talk to ever, right? So I'm choosing to work with some of my coaches on power hours or hopping on a Zoom or hopping on FaceTime or hopping on the phone to stay connected with people that are like-minded, that are working through this with me, because that's really, really important. Your personal routines, like just because things are crazy right now and kids are home does not mean that we just throw in the towel on all our routines. We have to give ourselves grace to shift into finding what a new normal looks like, right? And that kind of feels hard. We're trying to homeschool kids. We're trying to cook a million meals. We're trying to keep the house not looking like a wreck. We're trying to manage our emotions. We're trying to manage our kids' emotions, right? What's working for me right now is being really, really focused on how I start my day and how I end my day, and having a couple things in the day that are non-negotiables. Like every day before dinner time, we have been going out for like a 45-minute walk. That's been a non-negotiable every single day, to get outside, to go get fresh air, to disconnect. Making some time to connect with your kids, right? I personally, what I'm finding for business right now is that working in power pockets is really serving for me. Like, I don't know about you guys, but if you sit down and you have kids at home and they're running around, they're being crazy and they need your attention and you're like trying to get stuff done and they're nagging you, and like every 3 seconds, it's like, ah! And so an hour goes by and you've gotten nothing done. Now you feel frustrated. Now you feel defeated. Now your kids are crazy. Like, I've had to choose to be like, I can get this done in a little while. Right now, I need to go do XYZ with my kid or XYZ in my home. And like yesterday, for example, I tried working in the morning, didn't work out for me. So like once 1 o'clock rolled around, I'm using that as like my kid's on his iPad right now. I'm using screen time or movie time as my intentional work time, right? So he's not allowed to be on it at most other times. Yep, exactly. And I'm like, when I need to sit down and I need quiet and I need to focus, I number one need to have a to-do list of what am I doing in this time, so that I don't sit down and I don't scroll and I don't check notifications and I'm not getting anything productive done. But number two is using his time intentionally when I know he's going to be quiet and busy and focused and not interrupt me every 3 seconds to get things done. So yesterday, for me, that was like a 1 to 3:30 pocket, and I got as much done as I could that I needed to. And then I shut the computer off and I disconnected and I went to go be a mom. And anyone who knows me, Jessica, you know me really well. It's been a challenge for me to not want to hustle all day, every day, because that was my nature for a very long time. And I mentally really struggled when I couldn't work as hard as I wanted to. It's been a challenge for me to learn how to relax and decompress. But now that I have learned more, it's like everything flows more easily and I feel so much less stressed out when I'm kind of boxing in my time like that. So the next thing I'm going to say is like, make sure that you're making time to relax and decompress. Like, that's needed and necessary, normal in life. But like, I don't mean decompressing like sitting and scrolling. I mean, maybe you decompress watching TV. I personally don't. Like, I need to like sit out in the backyard under the stars or like read a book or whatever, but like find ways that you can intentionally build some decompression time into your day so that you can deal with any emotions that are coming up for you. You can actually relax from the stress of the day, and like you can feel emotionally rejuvenated, because it's almost like we have to put armor on right now before we go deal with the world and deal with our business. I was having a one-on-one with one of my coaches yesterday who was like, I don't know what to do right now. I can't invite people. Like, I'm struggling. And I was like, okay, like, what do you feel like you're struggling with? Like, where is that coming from? Like, digging more into asking yourself, like, when you sit down and you're like, I'm just not motivated to invite right now. Like, what is really actually coming up for you? Are you afraid of how people are going to perceive this? Are you afraid, like, rejection, whatever? Like, are you afraid of people thinking like, oh, she just wants money right now and I just lost my job. Like, what is actually coming up for you when you sit down and you're like, I'm not motivated to do whatever right now? Like, really ask yourself, like, what's behind this feeling for me? Because until you get to that root of that, you're going to continue feeling like you're just spinning in circles and getting nothing done. So we talked a little bit about the perspective of, yes, like my team, I created a free community that we're inviting to right now. So we have the free workouts in there. We have the free kid workouts. We're posting kid activities. We're doing daily like mental health check-ins. Like we're doing all these things in there, and that's fantastic. Like we have over 400 people in it now. But I'm not going to not share with people that actually need real solutions what they need, right? We were on a call the other day. I don't know if you saw it, Jess, with Elizabeth Hartkey. And like one of the things that she was saying to me that was so helpful for this perspective shift was she was saying, like, if someone needs a solution that is a paid option, I'm still going to offer it. And I'm going to unapologetically offer it, right? Because if you think about it, guys, like setting up a free group, it's so fantastic. It creates community. It builds trust. It shows people you care. You have compassion. You're giving free resources, right? But people that are joining it haven't necessarily made a decision to change, right? You're like giving all these things like in hopes that they're going to do it, but it's not the same as someone saying, I need structure in my life right now. I need something I can control. I need something that helps boost my energy and calm my anxiety. I need support. I need accountability to check in that I'm actually doing this every day. I need a nutrition plan because I've eaten 3 bags of chips this week, right? Like there are a lot of people out there that are going to jump into something free just because it's free and it offers them some type of value, right? But go create deeper connections with people that you're talking to about things and figure out what they're struggling with. This is no different than any other time. A lot of people are struggling with a lot of things right now. So something that's been working really well for me is just sending how are you messages. How are you goes a really long way in times like this, right? Hey, how are you? How you doing? Like, how are you adjusting to the routine? How are things going with your kids? And you'd be floored at how many people are so thankful just to have someone ask them how they're doing. Because we're all so consumed with what's going on in our own realities right now that nobody's saying, hey, how are you? Right? Everybody's like, hey, how do I survive right now? Not like a, hey, let me go check on other people and see how they're doing. And with that said, reaching out and asking other people how they're doing is going to take the focus off your struggle right now. And for me, going back full circle to when I started my business, I had seen this quote that said, when you feel helpless, help people. And that was like my jam at that point in time because I felt helpless. I was still dealing with emotional abuse every day. Like I was physically struggling. I was mentally struggling. I was financially struggling. And I felt helpless a lot of the time, like a lot of us are right now, right? I hate feeling helpless. It's one of my, like the things I despise most in life. I hate when I'm in a situation and I feel helpless. So I have to ask myself, how can I help right now? How can I help myself? How can I help people? And that gives me a greater conviction to keep showing up because I'm like, this isn't just about me and getting myself through it and getting my kid through it. It's about getting my team through it. It's about getting the people that I coach through it. It's about helping the people out there right now who need the help and want to get through this in a different way than what they're doing right now. Because it's only been a week, right? And like at some point, people are going to get sick of being anxiety ridden. They're going to get sick of sharing bad news. They're going to get sick of eating junk. They're going to get sick of drinking, not sleeping, all that stuff. Like how long can somebody do that before they're like, I'm sick of feeling like this. I want change, right? And we have to be the one there like, hey, how are you? Let me check on you. I have value to offer you and I'm here to serve you, right? Okay, a couple more things. I talked about working in pockets. It's really important. When you sit down to work your business, and this is also important, is like make sure that you have given yourself that perspective shift and that your mindset's in a good place. Like set the intention for what you're going to do when you're working and how you want to feel about it. Because for me, if I sit down in a space to work where I'm still feeling very anxious or distracted, I know that I'm not going to get good work done, right? Like I know that I'm basically just wasting my time because I'm going to get a couple busy work things done and get nothing productive done. So analyzing what your mindset is like and setting an intention before you actually sit down and work. Don't compare to what other people are doing right now. Don't compare your mental state. Don't compare your emotional state. Don't compare to how she's showing up on Instagram and posting her workouts today. Don't compare to what she's posting. Comparison is something we always have to work on as coaches. But right now, I don't know about you guys, but like I feel like I've been on an emotional roller coaster where I have like a really great day and I want to like post all the things and like do all Instagram stories. And then I have a day where I'm just like, I just need to take a nap because I'm so drained today and I'm so sick of being stuck at my house, right? Like, do not compare how you are going through this to how any other coaches are going through it or handling it. Like, put your blinders on hardcore and focus on what you can do every single day to feel okay, to be okay, to serve yourself, to lead yourself. And then what can you do to move the needle forward in your business and serve people and help people? That's all you need to focus on right now. Don't compare to what anybody else is doing. This was super helpful for me. This is kind of weird, but I think it's good to mention is journaling what your fears and worries and anxieties are right now. I sat down this morning and I wrote out 3 pages of what I'm anxious about, what I'm fearful for, what worries me. And surprisingly, a lot of it is not like getting sick or getting the virus or my kid getting the virus. It's me not being able to emotionally show up the way that I want to for my child or for my business or whatever, right? Like there are a lot of fears that might be spiraling around, like taking up space in your head. Get those down on a paper and give yourself permission to release them. It is so helpful to like give a voice to what you're feeling and let it go rather than just be like, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't think that. I shouldn't think that. Like it does nothing, right? Get it out and give yourself permission to let it go. And I already kind of mentioned this, but it's the last thing that I really want to say. 2 things actually is think about what your strengths are in your personal life. Like for me, I've been jotting out notes because I haven't been sharing a ton on social media the last couple of days and I'm not judging myself for that. But I also want to, over the next few weeks, really start putting out content that is of value and of help. And I loved what Elizabeth said yesterday of like, don't share wide, share deep, meaning like a lot of people right now are showing up saying like 5 tips to beat anxiety. Like there's nothing wrong with those things, right? They're collectively what everybody is feeling and going through, but like, how can you go a little bit deeper by tying your story into it or tying some experience you've had into it so that it's more niche down to the people that you want to help and you want to serve? Because for me, something I'm personally thinking about is I want to help women that are like I was when I was new, when my life was a mess and chaos, but like I was determined to become better and do better and live different. Like that's the women I want to speak to right now, right? I don't want to take on a bunch of people where I have to calm their fears and anxieties and like emotionally work them through things every single second of the day, right? That's draining. It's exhausting. Like we need to speak directly to the people that we want to be reaching. And I don't say that in a judgmental way. I hope it didn't come off like that. Like I want to work with people that are ready to change, right? That are ready to go through this differently. The other thing is thinking of strengths that you personally have in your life. Like, are you great at organizing? Are you great at time schedules? Are you great at kids snacks? Are you great at whatever? And think about how you can share those things, because if you're a mom, right, or if you're working from home, like we all are, there are a lot of people out there that have never done this before and have never navigated it. And I think that it's awesome if we can use strengths that we already have to share to benefit what people are their pain points and their struggles right now. And then the last thing I just want to like recap on is, how do you want to come out of this at the end of it? Like 3 months, 6 months from now, how are you going to use this opportunity and this time for growth to come out better on the other side of it? You know, to be better for you, better for your family, better for your business, a better leader. I know that it's not easy at all whatsoever. I'm in the trenches with you, but I think it's really important to think about the end game and how we want to come out of this, because even though it feels like it's not going to last forever. It's not going to be forever. So,
Boom.
hey, bud.
I know a bunch of us have to jump off really
Yep.
quickly, but
Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to say that was amazing. Thank you so much. And
You're
I want to
welcome.
pass on to the team. Megan didn't make it on the call. She sent in a group text that I have that her husband's best friend, they just found out, killed himself last night. And so, yeah, horrible. And I wanted to remind you guys, along the lines of what Dana was saying, this is the time we show up for people. This is the time that we show them they're not alone. We're going to start, unfortunately, seeing this increase because of the isolation and the hopelessness. So be the hope for somebody. Show them a different way. Like Dana was saying, like, be the example of how people can respond to this, because we don't have to go down the fear spiral. And that, like, it's awful and tragic, and unfortunately I know that it's going to happen more often. So let's show up for people. Let's fear out the window. Go live, be funny, be goofy, like, acknowledge this is the crappy place that we're in. But
Wants to shake, Mom.
I know. Good Lord. Anyways, I just wanted to pass that on if you guys could be praying for their family.
Yes.
Dana, thank you so much for your time. You're the best.
I'll see you tonight.
Love you, sister.
Love you too.
All right, you guys, have a great day. Bye.